And welcome to the Buckeye Zone. I'm your host, the Schrock Star Sean Schrock. And with me, as always, my partners in crime, my co-host, the national champion himself, Mr. EJ Underwood, and my boy
What
from
up? What
down
up?
south, Mr. Knoxville Nate. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing good, man. How about you guys? How you guys doing on this Monday?
Hey, man, doing all right. It was a good weekend, starting the week off right, and it's good to see your faces, fellas.
Ditto, man. Hey guys, big news today. Jackson Smith and the Jigba, man. Our boy JSN cashing in big time. Now the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL, $168 million. Almost about as much as you made on your first contract, wasn't it, EJ?
Oh man, I wish, but what a day for Jackson. To be the top paid receiver now. He just surpassed his Chase. Jackson's getting 42.1 a year. Chase is at 40 a year. Then you got Jefferson, who's behind them at 35 with CD Lamb. But George Pickens and Puka are up next after this. So just to see a Buckeye though, man, to set the to be the highest paid receiver, man, just a wonderful, wonderful things to see. And his stats the last 2 years, man, they don't lie. Like the last 2 years, he's been over 100 yards per receptions per year. And just coming off almost an 1,800 yard year as a receiver now. Like, and that's huge, man. Last 2 years he's been averaging 5 yards per catch. So you throw it his way, you're getting at least 5 yards, man, and keeping the chains moving. So man, Jackson, he totally been working his butt off. I love to see that this kid is taking the next steps because I do think he's one of the top like three best receivers in the league. That's just my opinion. He runs routes like no other. He's big, he's athletic, he's explosive, and fast. That's a dangerous combination right there for a receiver. And we got a Buckeye, great man, just taking over for the highest paid receiver in NFL history. That's awesome.
Yeah, man, it's like, it's always the next guy that kind of sets the market. It's all about when you sign and timing and all of that. But he definitely is deserving after the season he had this year, leading the Seahawks to the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl, and being the NFL Offensive Player of the Year. And I always knew this guy was going to be good. Like he showed so many things, especially that 2021 season when he came out and just dominated. With 95 catches for over 1,600 yards, 9 touchdowns. He averaged 123 yards per game that year for the Buckeyes, and I was just like, wow, this is the next one. He may be the best. And then obviously in 2022, he just could not stay healthy. I think he had the hamstring, and then it just kind of went from there, and he was never right. And I still obviously knew this guy was going to be great. That Rose Bowl game was one of the greatest games that any receiver has ever had ever. And watching that, I was like, the sky's the limit for this kid. And honestly, it didn't really hurt his draft stock. But this always makes me think back to 2022 and, what could have been. I think,
Yeah.
that especially that Georgia game, you put JSN on that field. And now I'm not saying that he did anything wrong. I mean, I don't blame him for not playing. He hadn't really played much all year long. And, I kind of understood where he was coming from. But man, if we'd have had him out there versus Georgia, I don't think we ever, relinquished that lead. And I obviously believe we could have won the next game. So it makes me think a little bit about what could have been because this guy's proven at the next level, that he's the real deal.
Well, he tried to come back, and problem was is he tried to come back too soon, and he pushed it, and it bit him. And I felt bad for the kid because he tried his hardest to come back, and it just didn't work out. And sometimes people question these guys on their heart. Are they really hurt? Are they sitting out? He really tried to come back, and like he said, he pushed it too much. came back a little too early, and that ended up costing him the rest of the year. But I'm still good for the kid, man. Just he deserves it. And just imagine how hard it is when everybody knows you're going to be the one getting the ball and double team. I mean, you can talk to us about that, EJ. Like, if you got a great receiver like him, how many times you got? I mean, what kind of coverages are you throwing at that guy? I mean, are you bracketing him, or do you flip coverages constantly on him, or what do you guys do to a
Well,
guy like that?
Well, he's so diverse, and that's what makes him so special because you could line him inside or outside, right? And that is a huge advantage for a receiver to have. You know, then it becomes a game of matchups. Every team cannot match up with a guy like that. So just depending on who you got in your secondary, definitely now, like going forward, if like even in the Super Bowl, they was like covering him up like he had 10 targets, but only 27 yards. But that lets you know the respect the Patriots have for him because they were making sure that this guy is not going to be the one to beat us in the Super Bowl you know. So a guy like Jackson, man, he's probably the like as an OC, one of the best things you could have like for a receiver because you could game plan to move this guy anywhere on the field, and it just becomes a matchup problem with the defense. So yeah, those typical guys like I kind of don't like to go against just because like he's not going to be on one side of the ball,
Mhm.
like like a true number one, like it is, or either left or the right side of the field. So yeah, matchup problem for a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, and I go back to this season and think like not that I'm ripping on Cooper Cup because this guy was one of the elite wide receivers in this league for a long time. But let's be honest. He's lost a step for sure. That's why the Rams moved off of him, and that's just the way it is. But Cooper Cup's really the only other guy that's ever been elite in the NFL on this roster. Now Rashid Shaheed is a fast playmaker, but is he like a polished, like, Pro Bowl, first team All Pro NFL wide receiver? I don't know if I'd say that yet. I love his return ability, what he can do in the special teams and the big plays he can make, handing him the ball, throwing it out to him. But he's not just a guy that can dictate coverage and, that you can get open on any play. So the fact that he had this type of year without having like I don't know, I guess whether Cooper Cup's a true number two at this point, I don't know. I would say probably not, but he's close to it. But there's really not like a presence. Like I look at the Bengals and you think Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. I mean, that's unreal. You think about what they used to have with Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, when they had the triplets or whatever you want to call them out there. That was some serious options, and people are fighting for the ball there. But the season he had this year with being the main guy, who was probably, going to be the guy that was dictating coverage and who was being talked about in those secondary meetings, I think just shows you that he's pretty much unstoppable. And I don't think he's going to slow down. I think this is a guy that if Darnold can keep doing what he's doing, I think JSN can keep putting up numbers. Don't you, Sean?
I do. One thing, I know that they really covered him up in the Super Bowl, but you know what? Because they paid so much attention to him. I mean, New England didn't key in on the run, and look at the day that Kenneth Walker had, man. I mean, honestly, we've seen it with JJ. Even though you might not catch as many passes, you're a decoy, and you still help your team, whether you're catching the ball or not, because they're shifting over the coverage to him. So hats off to JSN, man. What a great year. Now,
Yeah.
guys, of like Marvin, Garrett, Chris, I mean, Ibuka, man. I think Ibuka could be the next one to have the big breakout year. But who do you think's the next guy to take a jump?
Um, as far as receivers goes for
Yeah,
OSU, um, well, we still got Garrett Wilson, and I forgot to mention him on the list. Like, so we have one, two, three, four, five. So out of the top five highest paid receivers, the Buckeyes have two of them, the first and the last one, because Garrett makes 32 a year, and that's without a quarterback.
Yeah.
So, like, imagine when he does actually get one. And, that's the one thing I do feel for these guys. Like, you got these great receivers, like, who don't have a guy that gets them the ball consistently. So if I'm Garrett, man, I'm telling my agent, hey, if something doesn't shake by a certain time, get me out of New York ASAP, so I can at least go compete. Because what's end up happening now, a guy like that is not, he doesn't have the chance to get his potential earning out of him. This is wasting years of guys not being able to get the ball to them. But what the other guys, you got Chris Olave, who's still around, and I'm so happy to see that he had a bounce back year. That's another guy who could get paid too. So Ohio State, man, we've been producing some nice NFL talent. I love to see what Cardinal does this year coming into the draft. I hope he goes to a right situation where he has a quarterback throwing him the ball, because that is the key. You have to have a guy who's able to get you the ball in a timely fashion, and at a high clip. And if you don't have that as a receiver, all the team is doing is wasting their talent, because you have to get your playmakers the ball all the time.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm glad you brought up Olave because this year was big for him. First off, he played in all 16 games, and we've
Yeah.
seen him throughout the first couple of years in the NFL. He's had some injury issues. That's kind of out of your control, man. And you can work as hard as you can, but if you get nicked up, it's hard to get back out there. And he played in 16 of 17 games. I think I can't remember if he was hurt for that 17th game or if they just pulled him. But he was out there for the duration. He had over 100 catches. He had 1,163 yards and 9 touchdowns. And they've got a guy that may be, a QB, Tyler Shuck. Whether or not he's a franchise guy, that's to be seen. But he certainly, showed some flash, and
Yeah.
was better than Spencer Rattler and Jake Hayner and some of the other clowns that the Saints have been running out there. So I'm kind of optimistic, for Chris Olave moving forward. And I think if he can have a big year here, like EJ said, he is going to get paid as well. The guy that I'm concerned about, and not because of his ability, but because of the quarterback position and the team he plays on, is Marvin Harrison Jr.
I know you was about to say that.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, you think about all the guys that have come through, Marvin probably, had the most as far as tools go, the size, the speed, the hands, just the body, the way to contort himself to make catches. There's just nothing really that Marvin can't do. But the one thing he can't do is throw the ball to himself. The one thing he can't do is block on the offensive line. And, it's just been kind of a disaster down there in Arizona. And I don't really blame Marvin, for his maybe lack of production. He's been getting a lot of heat for it from some of the talking heads and the guys on, the local radio down there, and the national guys. They're giving him a hard time because of his numbers. But what do you want him to do, man? Kyler Murray, I don't think is a really great quarterback to begin with. And Jacoby Brissett is Jacoby Brissett. Is he, amazing? No. Is he the worst quarterback ever? I don't think so. But he's just not a guy that's going to light up NFL defenses. And, I'm hoping that they can figure out the quarterback position down there in Arizona. I think they need to get somebody, get somebody else to be at least competing with Jacoby. If that's bringing in a free agent, if that's drafting somebody, I don't know. But I don't have much. I don't have a whole lot of what's the word I'm looking for. I don't know if I trust. I don't know if confidence, trust in the organization of Arizona because they just had a lot. They've had a lot of trouble picking out talent and putting a team together. So I'm hoping that Marv, I guess best case scenario, can go somewhere else. If that doesn't happen, hopefully they can bring a quarterback in because I think he's got all the tools, man. And
Absolutely.
I don't think it's him. I really don't. And that's not. I mean, obviously I'm a biased Buckeye fan, but I've seen enough out of him to know that he can get it done.
I mean, they were blaming him, and they weren't even throwing him the ball. I mean, I
No.
felt bad for the guy. I mean, Jacoby Brissett is a second string quarterback. He's a veteran backup that you want that can come in and help you win a game, but he's not going to take you to the Super Bowl. Let's face it.
No.
Another thing I wanted to hit on quick was Chris Olave. How you talked about how he played 16 games last year and how big that was. The year before, man, I thought he was done because that injury that he had. I mean, that was like his third concussion, and that was nasty, man. When he hit his head like that and he didn't move at all, that was pretty scary. And I thought, man, I don't know if the guy comes back after that, but he did. I mean, that's scary stuff when you mess around with concussions, and especially when he's had about four of them. So happy that he bounced back with a big year. I think Emeka's going to have another good year. I mean, he just tore it up last year as a rookie, and I think the sky's the limit for that guy.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I forgot about Mecca down there in Tampa. See, like Ohio State, we're so deep, in receiver in the NFL, which I absolutely love to see. But Nate, you're absolutely right about Marvin. I knew exactly that's where you were going. It reminds me of Garrett's situation with New York. Man, those are two top NFL receivers. That if you get them in the right situation, oh my goodness, sky's the limit. So I truly, truly, truly hope for those two guys, they get with the right situation, so we can keep seeing their skill.
Yeah, I agree. And Emeka, really burst on to the scene. He had to play a lot and really be a big part of what Tampa did at the beginning of the season because Mike Evans was hurt, Godwin was hurt, some of their other guys were banged up. He had to go out there and produce right away, and he did. And I think, to be honest, obviously I never played in the NFL, so I don't know. But EJ can probably tell us. I think it's a lot to go from finishing up your college career, working out for the combine, getting to draft day, meeting with teams, pro days, all of that kind of thing, and then you just jump right into rookie mini camp. You go to training camp. You start your season, and then you're playing minimum 17 games. I got to imagine, EJ, that maybe a Mecca ran a little bit out of gas towards the end of the season, or at least could use a breather. What do you think?
No, you're absolutely right. Just think about everything you just listed. All of that is like high stress, and you got to be on point, like for everything. Like NFL is not one of those situations where you could come in there slacking. It stands for not for long. Like they're so serious about like what kind of character you have, what kind of person you are. They're going back talking to your elementary school teacher, middle school, high school, trying to figure out what kind of person you are. So no, like, and especially playing at a high level that he has been playing for, it's a lot to ask a rookie to come in here and do a lot. Especially when it's like you're playing with grown men who've been doing this and they gotta feed their family. So they're not gonna allow no rookie to come in here and outdo you. I can tell you that much for sure. That's not happening, You will get hit harder than you got hit in college, and that's a whole different factor too. The NFL has these great defensive players like from D tackle to linebackers, safeties on up. So it's a whole different thing. But look what Tampa did though. You had somebody like Mike Evans, who's been your go-to guy to have the most consecutive 1,000-yard season, and to not bring him back lets you know that Emeka did his thing. That they feel way more than comfortable moving forward, and right now we still got him as a deal because he's not. We don't have to pay him right now at this moment in time. So we did good by drafting this type of player, which actually pays off because I love to see guys who get drafted high pay off instead of becoming bust. And I don't think Emeka Ibuka is going to be a bust at all because honestly, between him and JSN, at one point in the NFL season, those are the top two receivers going back and forth. And I love for the fact when they played against each other because they both balled out. They both had over 100 and they both had a touchdown.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, man, that was just totally awesome to see. So, yeah, like Booker down there in Tampa, he will be. I would have to imagine that at one point, whenever he does go in for his new contract, he will be one of the top pay receivers in NFL history as well.
You
Yeah,
know,
I
guys.
agree. I agree, man. And I just, sorry, Sean, I just wanted to say that I think that that shows you what they think. And they obviously saw enough. They wouldn't move off one of the greatest wide receivers, in the history of NFL football. I mean, the guy's had 1,000-yard seasons. He surpassed Jerry Rice's record of consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, and they showed him the door. Not that they were rude to him or treated him unfairly. I'm just saying they felt very comfortable handing the keys to the wide receiver room over to Mekabuka. And I think that shows what this kid is capable of, especially with his character. He comes from a strong family and, is proven to be a guy that, isn't going to get in trouble off the field. I think they feel very comfortable letting him take over. Now they've got Chris Godwin coming back. Hopefully he can stay healthy. But with Godwin, Jalen McMillan, and then the Johnson brothers, as I call them, Tez and Cameron, they came out and played, or Cameron, however you want to pronounce it. They played pretty well when they were thrust on the field. So I think Baker's going to have a whole slew of guys to chuck the ball around to next year.
You know, guys, I've been listening to a lot of sports talk radio for the last couple weeks, and one thing that they said about Emeka last year that they're saying about Carnell Tate this year as well. He wasn't the main guy. Jeremiah Smith was the main guy. They didn't go against the number one corner. But look at what Emeka did in the pros, man. He would have been a number one any other place. He just happened to play with the best receiver in college football. I think Carnell's going to come in, and they're trying to use that excuse that he was going against the second best corner. But the thing is, he would have been a number one receiver any other place he would have went to. It just happened to play with the best. So that kid shouldn't be penalized for that, man.
Well, I
Yeah.
tell you what, like if you think about it, JSN and the Mecca are the same exact type of player. You can put them both inside and outside. I'm telling you right now, that is a dangerous weapon to have. And I expect this year going forward, especially with Tampa Bay, they will be doing that. Like this guy, man, I just watched him just have his way. With these defenders. And I'm just like, man, oh man, but it's the skill. So shout out to like, Brian Hartline who's been there, and Ryan Day for developing all these great receivers coming through Ohio State. And I forgot who we eclipsed because I want to say LSU for a little while had that crown, having the top receivers, but it is without a doubt. The last 20 years, if you think about college football, Ohio State is number one in the receiver category because of the people they have produced. And thinking about the ones we're not even talking about who used to ball out and then like they get to the NFL and they get lost in the sauce. So just to see these guys now having their impact on NFL teams, oh my goodness, it goes a long way.
Yeah, and you think about just the guys we've talked about here in the last few minutes: Marvin Harrison, Emeka Ibuka, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, and the boys, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and right now, Carnell Tate going to be next. And then we think the guy who's still here is probably going to break every record that's ever been held at Ohio State in the receiving room, and that just tells you what kind of player Jeremiah Smith is, and especially considering he gets all of the coverage, he gets all of the attention, and he's still putting up numbers like this It's crazy to think that he's probably the best of all of them.
I mean, it's amazing. And just look at the talent they keep bringing in too, man. I mean, Guilford. I mean,
Chris
Chris Henry
Henry.
Jr. Then the next year we got coming in, we got Jameer Showtime Brown, who was the number one receiver in his class. I mean, it's not slowing down, guys. I mean, it's just amazing
Uh,
the role that Ohio State has been on getting this talent year after year. And not only do they get it, but they develop it. I mean, those kids. I mean, what's it been 3 or 4 years in a row that we've had first round receivers go? I mean,
This will be 7 years in a row.
7 years in a row.
7 years in a row,
Ooh.
they've had a first round draft pick, and honestly, I think we can go ahead and say eight.
Yeah.
Because Jeremiah is going to be a first round draft pick next year. So that's amazing. And obviously, a little bit later on in the show, we'll talk about, if they can keep on bringing these guys in, with Heartline moving on.
Man, wow, that's crazy. Now, guys, it's March. March Madness. Our Buckeyes kind of they finally made the tournament again, but they had an early exit. There was a lot of talk about are they in the right? Do they have the right coach? I mean, a lot of people gave Jake Diebler a lot of heat this week, and the way I look at it is he took over a program that wasn't in good shape. He got those kids to play hard. I mean, they made the tournament. They hadn't made the tournament in a couple years. I mean, that's Jake's first time taking a team to a tournament, so he's also learning too. Comes from a very respected basketball family. His dad is a high school coaching legend in the state of Ohio. His brother was an awesome player for Ohio State. So I think they need to give Jake a little more time. And a lot of people forget that Ohio State does not have the backing for basketball that they do for football. The nil is not even close to these other teams.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And I think what shows, in my opinion, that this team is headed in the right direction is the way they fought back. In the middle of the season, there was, stretch of games where it didn't look good. They lost several in a row. And I think they lost like 4 of 6 or something like that, maybe 5 of 6, and it didn't look good. And, making the tournament kind of seemed far fetched. And he got them on the right track, got them back to where they were playing tough. They beat, I believe, Purdue
Purdue.
and had some other good victories. And then look at that game in the tournament. TCU got hot, was hitting shots, built up a 15-point lead at halftime, and they didn't quit, man. They fought back, they tied the game, and had a chance to win on the last possession of the game. And to me, that shows that this team believes in their coach. They listen to him, and I think that shows to me that they're heading in the right direction. They hadn't made the tournament in how many years? They get there and put up a good fight, and I don't think they embarrassed themselves. So I do think, in my opinion, that showed me that he deserves a little more time. What do you think, EJ?
No, I think if once you look at the stats, like the Buckeyes have 5 guys in double digits, right? And as a coach, like you like to see that. They outscored them 40-27 in the second half, so that just lets me know that whatever was said at halftime clicked, and everybody got their stuff together so they could go out and try to win this game. And it came down to the last few possessions. TCU, having those 3 guys that they were going to man, they was doing all the damage. And for the Buckeyes going forward, now, like Buckeye basketball, like shout out to Buckeye basketball. If I'm being truthful, I'm a Kentucky Duke guy because that's just how I was born and raised. So I can't, I'm not, I will never stop that. But going to Ohio State, like it's like I adopted a team, right? So I always root for my guys, and I want them to do good. I just really hope, man, we just need some really top guys in here, like how they got Greg Oden, Mike Conley Jr. Oh my God, that team was really sick. And I hate the fact that we did not win in both football or basketball that year, which I thought was like an awesome thing to do. Not too many programs can say like, "Hey, we played in a national championship in both football and basketball, right?" So with the head coach in there, I give him a little bit more time, but you got to get some of these one and done top prospects coming into your program because like let's face it, people want to be winning Big Ten championships and competing in March, and the Buckeyes have like the resources to do that. So let's just go out, get a couple guys like that, so we could get more excitement for the basketball program.
Yeah,
Guys, sorry, Nate.
oh, go ahead, man.
Let's not forget in basketball, all you need is one or two good guy, really good blue chip guys to really carry it. I mean, Diebler's playing with. He's not playing with his guys. I mean, he hasn't had a chance to recruit his guys, get his guys into the program the way he wants. So, I mean, he deserves, I think, at least a 4 year window to see what he can do. I mean, he's beaten Purdue multiple times. I mean, he took over for
Hmm.
Chris Holzman. They beat Purdue when they were number one. I mean, Michigan's been ranked in the top five all year long, and they almost beat them in the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, they took them right down to the wire, and there was a questionable call at the end that they got away with the scumbags. But it is what it is. But I think it showed a lot of improvement, and those kids hadn't been in a big tournament before, so I mean, a little more experience, and they'll learn from it, and I think we're in good hands.
No, I agree. I think getting to the tournament is what you want to do. You want to get to the dance. You want to get some experience for your team, get used to showing up, and you can use this as a tool, right? Hey, we made it to the tournament. We're going to get back there. We're going to compete. And that's how you go out and get these guys now. I mean, X's and O's can only get you so far. You need the Jimmies and the Joes, right? And especially in the Big Ten right now. Just look at the tournament as it stands now in the Sweet 16. You got Michigan, you got Purdue, you got Iowa, you got Nebraska, you got Illinois. Am I forgetting somebody?
Woo.
Michigan State. There's a
Michigan
lot.
State.
There's a lot of teams from this conference that are still rolling, and so you can't. This is not the time to sit back and be excited about making the tournament. You got to use this and like EJ said, go out and get Mike Conley and Greg Oden or whoever it may be, and bring them in so that you can compete to win a Big Ten championship because it's not that far. And yeah. He's still playing with some of the old regime's dudes, but this is basketball, man. You can flip the whole roster in a year. You can
Yes.
go out in the portal. You can go and get guys that are experienced, guys that have proven themselves at the D1 level. Then you go get a couple of one and doneers. Boom, you're right where you need to be. So I think they're close. I think they need to really focus on recruiting and get guys in the portal that can fit what you want to do. That's what I hate to say this on air, but I'm a Duke fan too. My dad went to Duke, so I cheer for the Blue Devils, and they have it pretty easy as far as recruiting goes. But now I live here in Tennessee, and look at what Rick Barnes does, man. This is 3 years in a row that he's got. They've been to the Sweet 16 4 years in a row. And if they win the next week, they'll be in the Elite Eight 3 years in a row. And he did it with Dalton Connect 3 years ago that he pulled out of nowhere in the portal. And then last year he went out and got Chaz Lanier from North Florida. Nobody had ever heard of Chaz Lanier, and he lit people up. And then this year he went out and got Jacoby Gillespie from Maryland, and also pulled Nate Ament, who's the highest recruited player that Tennessee's ever had, and they're right back where they need to be. So you go get one or two guys that may be flying a little bit under the radar, but are good, solid players in the portal that fit what you want to do, and then go get one blue chipper, and you're right in the thick of this.
Duke,
No,
Duke,
you go ahead.
Duke. Sorry, AJ. Duke got
You
lucky,
fine.
man. They were down to Sierra, and they almost lost that game. And Sierra did not sub anybody that whole first half. The same five guys played that whole way through until the very end. But man, they had Duke on the ropes, and they couldn't finish them off.
Well, here's the thing though, right? And like playing for the Buckeyes, you get everybody's best game ever.
Mhm.
That's exactly what happened with Duke. Like they're going to get everybody's best because of who they are and the history of the program. Um, if you really think about it, the Buckeyes like last big time recruit was Greg Oden, and I've been over here thinking about it because we haven't had many lottery picks since then. So that's that. What year was that? We're talking about 2006.
Yeah,
Dude,
oh 06, oh 07.
Yeah.
so we're talking about almost 20 years right now as a program. That when you're telling me we can't go get any more like blue chippers or McDonald's All Americans, like no, that's like a problem to me, man. That's why I love being a Duke and Kentucky fan. No matter what, we are going to get the best of the best, right? So Ohio State, man, like I really feel like we dropped the ball when we had Mike Conley. Who's the other dude? Cook, Daquan
Daquan
Cook.
Cook and
Oh yeah,
David Lighty.
David Levy. Yeah.
yeah, you have to keep going. You know what I'm saying? Keep recruiting the best, bringing in the best. You know, like and let's face it, man. A lot of these players, especially in basketball, the programs are paying these guys to go to school. You know, like a lot of these programs are happy that NIL are stepping in because now we can control that. So as a program, I hope Coach Diebler realizes that it's like, hey man, and we're gonna make like if we're gonna compete against the Purdue's and the Michigan States, Illinois, Wisconsin's, we have to have these McDonald's All American guys here. And or we're gonna get the top of the best out of the portal. Because if we don't do that, we're going to be underneath those teams, man. And I don't want to see Ohio State like that. I want to
No.
see Ohio State, especially in basketball, because don't tell me that we don't got the resources to go out there and spend buku money on the right roster. The fact that we have not done that and we haven't had any lottery picks really since those two guys were there, that's saying something.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the last like 4 5 star big name recruit that they brought in the basketball
He,
program, and I
Evan
can't think of
Turner.
it.
Evan Turner.
Evan Turner. Uh,
Was Evan before them or
He was
after?
after them. He was after them.
So okay, so Evan Turner.
Then what was that? D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah,
He was.
D'Angelo Russell. That
Yeah,
was he was a big time recruit, and he is still playing in the league. I'm trying to think of what year that was that he played because D'Angelo Russell's 30 years old. The year he played in Ohio State was 2014, 2015, and he was the second overall pick in the draft. So I guess
yeah.
I did forget about him.
I forgot about that being the second overall pick.
Yeah, and
But that's
but
go
that's
ahead.
but you can't just do like you can't just have
One every 5 years.
one
Yeah.
yeah, one this year, one 5 years from now. You got to bring in at least one 4 or 5 star guy every year, and then you go out in the portal and bring in the people that you need to supplement your roster based on what you're missing. And I think they definitely have the money to do it. They definitely have the resources. I think this coach is, he can get it done on the court. The question is, can he recruit? That's my big question about him now. Can you go out and get one of these guys, a McDonald's All American? Can you go out and get a 5 star dude and bring him in and sign him? Get the financial package worked out for him. The money's there, but they have to go in the living room, EJ, right, and talk him into coming.
Oh, absolutely, man. See, that's the thing. We just gotta pull out our wallets and say, "Hey, we're paying you this amount of money. Like, do you like it? What does your family need?" Because it's been going on for ages, right? Now NIL, with the title, you can just do it right out in front. I bet Reggie Bush back in the day wished NIL was
Yeah.
around because they would not have took his Heisman, which I thought was bull crap anyway.
He got the
Because
Heisman back.
it was yes, no, no, for sure. But let's just face it, like Reggie Bush was the best player,
Oh yeah.
like in college football that year. So taking his Heisman away still doesn't do nothing because he still was the best. But nah, man, we have to open up our checkbook big time because we need these like. we need these top recruits, man. I forgot D'Angelo Russell was a number 2 pick, but that lets me know like his impact at Ohio State wasn't like that big enough to me. Be like, oh my God, D'Angelo Russell, And I'm not taking away how good of a player he is because D'Angelo, he obviously was the second pick, so you don't become the second pick in the NBA draft and not being a bad player. But we need more consistency so we can have like top guys coming in. It just only does it just makes the whole program better. Like let's say you are recruiting a guy who plays both football and basketball, right? Because that's when I was coming out of high school, that's what was happening to me. So man, you get a program like okay, like if I'm still playing football, can I play for the Buckeyes or can I play basketball for the Buckeyes at the same time? Because like there's still kids who will want to do that. Or like hey, like well, I don't know what sport I want to play, football or basketball, but going to Ohio State, regardless of the factor, you can at least say in football you're going to compete. So like it'll be great for the basketball program to raise up their level. So that's not even a no brainer. Like, well, hey, if it ain't working out for basketball, I mean football, I could just go play basketball here because they compete for championships, and I know these kids want to win and get money.
Yeah.
Well, the one good thing about Diebler is he did get the Mr. Ohio to stick around. Mr. Ohio, the basketball player, Mr. Ohio, who won the award, coming in next year, so he got him to stay home. So that's good news there. But we need some of these donors to ante up some money because I tell you what, they're really really low compared to the Big Ten. Man, they're like towards the bottom when it comes to NIL spending for basketball. And it's not like football where you got to buy a bunch of guys. I mean, even if you just buy three tops, three good guys, man, that could carry you. I mean,
Yeah.
develop a couple guys, get a couple guys out of the portal that played, Division II ball or NIA ball. I mean,
Yeah.
it wouldn't
You get
take much.
Yeah, you get smaller school guys, and EJ, you were talking about that D'Angelo Russell team, that 2014, 2015 squad. They actually had a ton of talent, not just him, but they underachieved. Man, they were 11-7 in the Big Ten. They were 24-11 overall, and they had not only D'Angelo Russell, they had Jashawn Tate, who played in the league for a
Mm.
while. They had Keita Bates Diop, who played in the NBA for a while. They had Aaron Kraft, Lenzel Smith,
Oh,
LaQuinton Ross. They had some ballers, but they didn't really get it done. But that was back in the Thad Matta days, man. He was, a good coach and also, proved to be a heck of a recruiter. And that's what we need to see out of Diebler, man. I mean, he needs to go out and, get the top end guys, and whether that means dudes from smaller Division I schools, whether that means guys overseas. I mean, look at Gonzaga; they have a pipeline of somebody from over in
Yeah.
Europe every year, and
yeah.
look, Illinois does the same thing. They've had
Hmm.
guys the last 3 years in a row that have come from Serbia or another Middle European, Eastern European team that came right into their program and injected talent right away. So there's lots of different ways to do it. He's just got to come up with the way that works for him.
Now, guys, switching notes here. We'll stay on recruiting. Now, going into, now that we lost Brian Hartline, do, how do we pick up the slack for that? Do you think Cortez Hankin will be able to pick up the slack, or is Ryan Day going to have to jump in and help with that?
Well, the good thing about us, we still got Larry Johnson and Tim Walton there, right? So, those are great recruiters, and I'm sure for the right situation, if they need to go out for certain players, if I'm Ryan Day, like with either one of those guys, I feel comfortable. Um, this is the chance for some of these new coaches to come in and put their mark on it. Matt Patricia, he's here. You got Arthur Cook now, the new OC. I'm sure Arthur would definitely have to go out and meet some of the top prospects. That's if I'm Ryan, I'm going to send my OC to a guy that who's going to fit our program. What we want to get done on the offensive side. So like we have some guys who can step it up. Um, the good thing about us though is that we have the Ohio State name. So regardless about that, like if a kid gets a letter from Ohio State, their eyes is gonna light up because
Mhm.
they know that this is a winning program throughout the years. And Coach Day, man, shout out to him because I remember when Urban did want to pass it to him. I was probably one of those guys that like, don't why are we giving it to an outsider? Like, because being here from Ohio, I felt like it should have went to somebody who was from Ohio. That's just
Mhm.
my bias, but that's all out the window now, because Ryan Day has shown to me that he is a great recruiter and a leader of men. And that's what you want when you're like searching for a head coach. So I'm sure Coach Day is going to sit down and go over with his staff, what players, like who's assigned to who, what areas, and Ohio State will be fine. They're always going to have that worked out for them.
Yeah, and I think that I think all those guys EJ mentioned are going to go out and help with the recruiting angle. I don't know how much Patricia and Arthur Smith are going to be asked, to travel on the road, but I definitely think Hankton's going to do some of that. I think James Laurinaitis is another guy that they're going to use to go out and meet with families and meet with kids that we'll be able to bring some guys into the program. And I think they're going to be all right. The thing we talked about the other night on the Ohio podcast was, Ryan Day stepping into more of a CEO role. He's not going to be calling the plays next year. He's not going to be the Brian Hartline's training wheels, for the offensive coordinator position. Arthur Smith was an NFL head coach, right? He
Mhm.
managed the entire Atlanta Falcons team. I think he can handle running the Buckeye offense. So that's going to give Day the ability to step back and kind of manage this whole thing as one unit. He's going to be able to manage the team as a whole, the recruiting stuff. He's going to be able to manage the NIL and the boosters. And I think it's going to give him a lot more time to make sure they're hitting on all cylinders and all those different facets of the program. And I think that's going to do nothing but help the Buckeye recruiting angle. And it's not like last year was a disaster. In 2025, they went out and had a pretty dang good class. We've talked about them at nauseum. All the guys they brought in our 2026 class, all the guys that they went out and got. Some of the guys that are going to be helping right away, Chris Henry Jr., Sincere Johnson, all those dudes, Legend Bay, some of these guys that are going to play, sooner rather than later. And they finished with the number 3 overall ranked class and did a pretty good job. So I think just having Coach Day more involved will help things. And I think James Laurinaitis is a guy that is, kind of an underrated, up and coming new recruiter.
Not as the only underrated recruiter, but man, look at how much the linebacker play has gone up since he's taken over as the linebacker coach. I mean, Arvell's play went way up. He helped Cody Simon become a starter. I mean, he got T.J. Alford and he got Riley Pettijohn, the two guys he had at the top of his board. He went out and got Sincere Johnson. I mean, got the Glenville pipeline going, baby. So, I mean, I think he's a star in the making, and I would not be surprised if down the road he becomes a defensive coordinator, honestly. I think he's a real star. And another guy that I really liked that they brought in was Carlos Lachlan. I love that guy. The guy is just brings the attitude, brings toughness. He's, he's a rah rah guy, but he gets in everybody's face and gets them pumped up. I think that was two good hires by Ryan Day.
No, for sure. The one thing I do think that Hartline is going to have to his advantage of by him taking that head coaching job is that he was at Ohio State and he was a part of the pipeline of receivers, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if he does get either a couple guys that he probably was recruiting at Ohio State because at the end of the day, he's still a great coach and a great recruiter. So, with Hardline gone, he he's not going to get the top of the top. I wouldn't think, but he'll get like the 3 or 4 stars that that he was probably recruiting at Ohio State, and fall into his pocket.
Yeah, no, I agree. This guy is not going to forget how to recruit dudes.
Nah.
He's one. You can say whatever you want to about him, but he was definitely one of the best recruiters we have ever had at the Ohio State University. Now, let's be honest. Let's give some credit where it's due. We were bringing in some pretty good wide receivers before he got here as
Yeah.
well. Now he picked it up and took it to a whole nother level, and I give him all the
Mhm.
credit in the world. But we had wideouts before he arrived. So it wasn't just Brian Hartline. As EJ said, you got the Ohio State name on your you got the logo on your golf shirt when you walk in. That's going to help things. And let's be honest, he's gone, and we still got Chris Henry Jr. He left on signing day, and we were still able to get Guilford and Chris Henry Jr. And eventually, when Legend Bay was 18 and able to sign for himself, we were able to get him as well. And then already, in 2027, we've already got a commitment from the #1 overall player in the whole shabeel in old DJ Jacobs. So I think the Ohio State recruiting machine will continue without him. And I think it was time for him to move on. He had done everything he was going to do here. He did a great job. I'm not taking anything away from him. But Ohio State will continue to recruit players long after he is gone.
I mean, basically, Ohio State recruits itself, man. All you gotta do is, like EJ says, when that kid gets that letter from says Ohio State on it, man, that basically gets him here. I mean, sure, some of the kids you have to close the deal on, man, but I mean, we already have Jameer Brown committed for next year, and he could have left with Heartline, and he didn't. So I mean, we're still getting a 5-star talent to come in. So I think we're gonna be in good shape.
I do think Hardline will snag a couple of guys from the roster who that he probably was around when he was at Ohio State because if I'm a guy and I'm like second or third on the depth chart and it's not looking too good, why not go somewhere with a coach that I was with before, and become like the #1 guy there, because let's face it, no matter where you go and you transfer, you still have the Ohio State name with you, and it's been plenty of times where I'm watching college football, I'm watching some like SEC or ACC game, and then, oh yeah, such and such transfer from Ohio State. I'm like, oh man, who is that? Then I start doing my research to see who the player was, but that happens a lot. So once again, I think Brian probably will get a couple of those guys in the transfer portal, and I can't blame him because I would want to be playing for a guy that I was comfortable being around before.
Yeah, no, he took he took some guys with him when he left. He took C.J. Hicks and he took one of the, I think it was
Rogers.
Rogers. Yeah,
Rogers.
he took Bryson Rogers as well. So EJ's right. He took some of the dudes with him, and he's a he's a veteran recruiter. He knows how to do it. He has relationships with these guys, and that's what we'll need to do is have as EJ mentioned, Walton is a great recruiter. Larry Johnson, if they come on campus and meet with him, he's one of the greatest assistant coaches in the history of college football, in my opinion. And he's going to, put his name out there and bring guys in. And then, we already mentioned James Laurinaitis. I think he's going to be out on the recruiting trail, making hay as well. So I think we'll be all right. I think it'll be a lot of transition at first. But they did a good job on signing day of not only bringing in dudes in this 2026 class, but they ended up with a pretty decent transfer portal class as well, and that was after Hartline was already gone, going out and getting James Smith and Rousseau from Alabama and adding some depth at some of the other positions that we needed to, I think shows that the program will have continued success, both recruiting high school players and then also getting guys in the portal. And as we've already started to notice, it's going to be just as important to get guys from the portal as it is from high school in the next coming years, because some of these guys are building their whole teams through the portal, right?
No doubt. If there's one position, guys, I want to get your guys' take on this. Is there one position that you're worried about that we really need to step our game up in that you're concerned about next year?
For me, I'm not worried about it at the moment, right? Because after spring practices, after the spring game, we will have a good sense who who stepped up their game and what the fall roster look or depth chart is going to look like when it comes to it. So, but this is Ohio State, Sean. Like, regardless of the factor, you got like 4 and 5 stars like backing up each other, and shout out to Alabama. Like, every time we get a transfer kid from Alabama, just think about it. The center, then we had that who got hurt last year. I forget
McLaughlin,
the kid. Oh
Seth
my gosh,
McLaughlin.
He
oh
was
my
great.
gosh, you great. How about Caleb Downs? He ain't too shabby
He
himself,
was
right?
okay. He was
So,
okay. You know, he was an
And,
okay
and
guy.
and don't forget Julian Sand, bro.
Yeah.
oh my God, how can I forget the quarterback? Julian said he had an okay year, right?
Yeah,
Oh
he was
my goodness.
bad.
Man, keep these transfer guys coming in from Alabama, because the one thing is shown that they have great character. They've been, and more importantly, they're great football players, and the IQ is up there. So no, man, like, you are absolutely right. I think high school recruiting, you still want the top of the top, but if I'm a college coach, I'm looking at the transfer portal, see what guys have experience and what guys I could bring in to help us out on both sides of the ball. Um,
No doubt. And I think for me, I do think that we need to go out and get some additional offensive linemen. We haven't had that
yes.
big time badass on the outside like the Paris Johnson Jr., the DeJuan Jones, since those guys left. We need a dude that we can. I mean, Joshua Simmons was a guy we got in the portal, but I mean some young guys that we can bring in and develop. I think we need to hit that position hard because that's what everybody. That's what this team's built on, right? You got to win the offensive line, the defensive lines, and we've been hitting defensive lines still pretty good, but I think we need to add some more talent at the edge on the offensive tackle position.
I think the one thing though is this with this freshman class that just came in, that's the one thing that I will give Tyler Bowen credit for, the offensive line coach, because I've been at it. I've been yelling and yelling that I didn't like his scheme and I didn't care for his I didn't think he showed enough in development. But his recruiting, he recruited 2 top tackles. I mean, Sam Greer was a 5-star tackle out of Ohio, and Maxwell Riley another 5-star. So we'll see what he does with the talent that he's got. But I mean, he brought in quite a bit of high quality kids during the recruiting. So I would like to see us get a couple more experienced guys in there, if not just for depth.
No, I agree, and I think last year was good. I just think they need to continue to build on that and add some additional depth in the 2027 class.
Oh, I totally agree. Now, guys,
Yeah, absolutely.
is there one guy who do you think out of this freshman class coming in, is there a guy that you think has a chance to really, really make an impact? One from each side of the ball. If you got a guy on each side of the ball, let's hear it.
Um, I was Sincere Johnson, because one, I just think that's just like a baller name. You know, like, I could just imagine the announcer Sincere Johnson on the play. And Chris Henry Jr. I'm excited to see him because his dad was a special type of individual receiver, was on his way to be one of the top and be one of the very best in the NFL. But yeah, to see those two guys, I'm excited for.
Yeah, me too. We're running up against it here, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Legend Bay for sure. I think that he's a guy that's going to help out right away. and make an impact on this offensive team. And then I look for him to help on special teams as well. And I don't know if these young corners will get out there early, but I do think it'll be important to get guys like Jay Timmons, maybe put him in at some nickel time to boot.
I love Timmons, man. That's a good one, Nate. And I would love for him to take Brandon Ennis out of the returning punts and put Legend Bay back there.
Yep, no doubt.
No, for sure.
Just get somebody with. I know Ennis can catch the punt, but I want someone back there with a burst. Someone that can bust it. And Brandon's a tough runner, but he doesn't have that breakaway speed. So.
Yep. All right, man.
Well, guys, great show like always. Everybody that watched the chat, we appreciate you for coming in and watching us. Guys, at 8 o'clock, go over and watch Eric's show, the Ohio Podcast, the Roundtable Show. Thanks again for all your guys' support. We love chopping it up. Another great show. Love coming on here and talking ball with my friends, man. Nothing better than that.
Nope. Have a great one, guys.
Absolutely.
Talk to you again soon.
All right, guys. Hey, stay good, man.
Till we meet again, guys.
And here we go.